Mike Sibley, partner and leader of the manufacturing team here at James Moore and Company. I'm joined, as always, by Kevin Golder, my partner and also a member of our manufacturing team. So today we're going to talk about an issue. Really, we're going to talk about data, which is a topic near and dear to our hearts. But every manufacturing business leader struggles with data, struggles with getting the information in a timely manner and in a way that is actually allowing them to make decisions. And, a lot of times companies are waiting till month end to really find out how did they do. They're all eager to get that, 10, 15, sometimes even longer days after month end just to figure out how did they do a month ago. And now you've lost time to make corrections in real time, to address issues in real time. And so, manufacturers are inundated with data. It's everywhere, but it's often hard to actually get it all in a way that makes sense. So today we're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about dashboarding, what manufacturers should be watching more frequently, and of course we're going to introduce our JMCO, our James Moore Manufacturing Dashboard, which takes a lot of the data, a lot of the key data points, and starts bringing them, to your fingertips. So a lot to cover there this month, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's keep in mind, you just got to make it make sense, right? There's a lot of data, a lot of stuff you can pull and all, but being in tune with what's important to you, what's really driving you, making it make sense, because then otherwise it's just data for data's sake. So keep that in mind with everything we look at. There's probably a lot of commonality amongst different manufacturers of common themes and things that are applicable to every manufacturer. But then again, there may be things that are more important to you that you need to really drill down upon or make sure that's included in your data that you're getting on a timely basis.
So let's start with the concept of month end. We're
Yeah.
going to start there. And, what is month end doing for us? What is it not doing for us? Maybe Kevin, talk about that a little bit as we hit about, month end still important, getting that close, but really, what are the issues with that?
Yeah. One thing I want to say is, first of all, month end is not a bad thing, right? We have to have a clean month end. We have to have that process, that procedure to produce those. The problem that we have with that, though, is like you said earlier, is it's too late, right? If something's going off course, at best we find out 45 days late, maybe 30 if we're lucky. But it's just too late to actually do anything about it. So by the time you find out about it, and then you implement a change, right? It could be up to 60 days or later beyond that. And now you've lost all that opportunity in there, right? If that's a cost, now that's a cost or waste that is a real bottom line cost to you that you could have fixed earlier. Had simply right? As simple as that, right? So again, having the month end close is not a bad thing. You have to have that. I think only relying upon that is where the problem is because again, operational issues, they're going to show up before the actual financials come out, right? So a lot of these things that are occurring and so forth, they're going to be in real time on your floor long before you see them in the financials. And that's assuming they're portrayed correctly in those financials. Sometimes in those financials, things that are maybe an operational inefficiency, maybe a waste or something like that, it's kind of hidden, right? That you need to be looking at more real-time data to kind of unearth, oh gosh, something's not right here because I'm only looking at that set of data once a month, right? So that doesn't give leadership very much time or leeway to make on-the-spot decisions, right? That then lead into real dollars, real change in your organization, right? So again, slower data, which leads to slower decision making, right? Which leads to slower course correction, right? And obviously, if you're very, very busy, let's say you're ramping up, is in your busy time, or you're a growing manufacturer, that's just going to build more and more pressure on your margins, right? That you then scratch your head a quarter later saying, well, man, how did we get to this point? How did we not catch this sooner? And the answer is information, the clarity and the timeliness of that information, right? So I think those are some of the, I'll say, problems with relying solely upon month end close to say, well, hey, how did we do? What should we fix? What should we change? Or are we, meeting expectation or not? Uh, those are a lot of the issues you're going to run into if that's solely your only source of data that you're looking at on that monthly or quarterly basis, right?
Right.
Um, Now we do, a lot of those manufacturing leaders and so forth that we talk with and companies we talk with, they say, hey, um, as I said earlier, we've got a lot of data, we've got a lot of information. Maybe it comes partly from that month end, maybe it comes from other metrics, but I've just still don't, I can't see it clearly. How does that translate to operations, right? I know on this show a lot, on this podcast and all, we talk about connecting those two. Well, things like dashboards and data and all can help do that to help you see that your business more clearly, right? But a lot of times we still get that feedback. I mean, I've got the data, I've got the stuff I need, but I still can't connect that to. There's still a disconnect there, right? Mike, I'm sure you hear that a lot. What are some of those disconnects that maybe you hear people saying, well, I've got it. I've got it at my fingertips. I just don't know. I can't make sense of it.
Yeah, you're right. I hear that a lot. It's one of the things, it's one of the reasons why I created a framework that helps manufacturers understand how to start flowing data into let's call it data centralization so you can do something with it right now. If you think about it, you know, we've got data in our ERP system, we've got data in our CRM system, our
Mhm.
equipment gives off data. We have
Mhm.
Excel spreadsheets. We've got all these different places that data is residing and none of it's really connected. And I think if what I'm seeing is you've got your production manager doing data analysis, you've got your finance team, your sales team. You're probably got enough data analysis happening where you got a couple of FTEs every year worth of time doing
Mhm.
financial analysis rather than spending all of their time, most of their time actually working on and in the business. And so, what manufacturers are often, they're just overwhelmed by all this data and this detail. And generally speaking, they're not financial analysts. And now, when you start bringing in the ability to leverage AI, well, AI is is great, but you've got to be able to you've got to be able to give it access to data, timely data. And so then you got everybody spending time pulling data and doing all this. It creates a lot of inconsistency. And I've often seen in some places the same different people pulling the same data and coming up with different conclusions. And
Right.
it's just the way they're running it because they're not used to running these things. So what we really need to do is create that framework to allow data to flow to certain places in a much more automated fashion and then feed into something that summarizes. That's where we talk about dashboards, something that summarizes the key things that you can look at a glance, know that it's being updated, and actually be able to use it for actionable decisions. And that's where, I think we start shifting into you know, um, what does good data look like? And one of the things I want to start with before we get too far deeper, Kevin, is that in
Mhm.
order to have analytics, in other words, dashboard data telling us something, we have to
Mhm.
have an expectation or understand
Yeah.
what that means. So
Right.
if we see that our margins are 40%, well, is that good or bad? Well, it's going to depend on your industry, your subsegment within manufacturing. It's going to depend on what you do as a manufacturer. 40% may not be good. But if you look at it, you say, okay, 40%. Well, what does that mean? So we gotta also build into this idea of what are our expectations? What is our plan? So that way when we compare our dashboard data and we look at it, we know whether or not that's going right or wrong, that's going the right way. If we have no cash, probably fairly obvious that that's not a good thing, right?
Yep.
If all of our receivables are old, again, some of that stuff's real
Yep.
easy, some of it not so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, I think you're right there. The extremes are easy. No cash, all the receivables
Right.
are easy to point out. Well, that's not good. It's that in between, right? Well, is that really good or bad? Is that a healthy amount or not?
Mhm.
And I like that because again, it's kind of sets that baseline. What is success? Whether it's the season, if you're in a seasonality, or a particular year or a 5 year stretch, what does success look like for my manufacturing company in this moment, this month, this week, this year, and so forth? And then you have some baseline at least to judge that against, right? So I like that a lot. It's thinking about what is success for me. And honestly, if you're thinking about that, you're probably also thinking about, well, then what metrics do I need to be looking at, or what data do I need to look at that then helps me say, yes, I am on track for that, or no, I'm off track, right?
Right.
So I think that too, because again, going back to we've got a lot of data. What should I look at? Asking yourself those types of questions about your company will then help you dictate, well, what do I have to see to know that? Right. And will help you start dictating what should be on that dashboard, or those KPIs and all that you're looking at on a regular basis versus not. So I like that a lot.
Well, and I think, there are plenty of companies who have KPIs or spreadsheet bound. They just take
Mhm.
a lot of time to build together and they come together. In other words, you got to go in, find the data, crunch the data, then put it on this KPI. And what we're suggesting is that with automations and connectors, things like that, you can actually automate the collection of data. And it's worth its weight in gold because you're now spending time. So when we think about cost savings as an example, we think about hard costs and soft costs. Hard costs are
Mhm.
literally we stop spending this money on this thing. An opportunity cost or soft cost savings is more like we're building capacity. So if we take a
Mhm.
group of highly valuable people within an organization and we free up hours and hours and hours per week because we're not
Mhm.
crunching data, that's an opportunity cost savings that they can spend dealing with the issues
Right.
versus just trying to figure out what the issues even are. And I think that's where a lot of manufacturers get stuck is what to do with all this. And so when we start talking about what are useful data points, well, one, let's start big picture. Well, what do you need to know to manage your business? Production trends. It could be margins, it could be raw material costs, could be these various productivity leverages, utilization of personnel, things like that. Sales activity, pipeline activity, sales by day, demand signals, maybe, receivables, collections, cash flow and working capital. Those are all things as examples on, inventory levels, inventory that's
Right.
going bad. Why is it going bad? Did we order too much? Do we need to adjust our purchasing? Things like that. These are all various examples. Quality, on-time deliveries. There's the list can go on with a number of things that you want, and you got to figure these are all coming likely from different systems or different databases within a system that has to be pulled. And this is why we're talking about the importance of understanding how to get this efficiently in one spot to make it easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and um, on top of that, you know, well, what does having that, right? All those things you just talked about actually do for it, right? So one, you got to remember, if you're now looking at this data more timely, more regularly, that means you can highlight trends earlier, whether that's a good trend or a bad trend, right?
Yeah.
You can highlight those trends early so you know something's off, as opposed to think about it if you only had those data points of the month end, like you mentioned earlier, and that's 12 data points a year. You may be way further off than what you realize, but it's 6 months before you realize that because you don't have enough repetitive data, regular data that you're looking at to say, oh gosh, we're trending in the wrong direction, right? So again, it can help you. You're looking at that regularly, and maybe it's not even that big of a deviation, but you start noticing those even slight deviations a lot earlier, right? To say, okay, well, why is that? Even if it's a good deviation, well, why is that, right? Um, so I think it helps you to do that. It helps bring to the surface those items, those exceptions, those deviations that, hey, they need attention, right? because maybe it's not a big, emergency, fire today, but left alone in a few weeks, maybe it will become one, right? So again, you kind of hedge against any potential issues, fires, or something that's maybe just a slight off course, can then create an even huge or bigger problem, down the road, whether it be in a month or a few weeks, much less any longer period of time, right? Um, and then also, kind of going back to your expectations. What do I expect out of my team? Well, we expect to build this, product or turn around this inventory or this sale in this period of time. Well, how do they know they're doing that if we don't have some sort of regular, real data to hold them to that, right? Obviously, when it's all said and done, they can say, okay, did we meet that expectation? Did we meet that the client expectation or not? That delivery date. But what about in between? At some point, it's too far gone to where well, it kind of is what it is. There's no comeback. All we can do is kind of cut our losses from here going forward and get it out as quick as we can, right? While maintaining our quality. But what about if you knew about that a little bit earlier? Then at each step along the way, you can now hold different team members responsible for their areas. And that spans a lot of different departments, right? So it creates that sense of accountability. And honestly, with your employees, the knowledge of knowing, yeah, I'm on task. Yeah, I did a great job kind of builds that self-confidence, or no, hey, I need to step it up, to where they can even monitor amongst themselves, much less accountability at a much higher level. So again, it creates that sense of ownership, that responsibility, that accountability, that then you can hold one another to make sure we're all rowing the boat in the right direction to meet those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other things that we also have to address here is, and I see this a lot, is crossing departments. You have your sales department, you have production group, you have finance, HR, maybe all these, and they're all sitting in their silos. They're all doing their calculations. They're all doing their thing. But really, it's. I think of it in terms of value streams, right? There's one value stream that goes through, or maybe there's a couple of value streams. But we need sales and finance talking to each other. We need operations and sales talking to each other. If sales it says, hey, we can do this for on time delivery, yet our on time delivery is really poor because sales are making promises that ops can't meet. That's a
Sure.
problem, right? We need to be able to see that and say, well,
Yep.
why can't we meet that? What's going on? Is it an issue? Maybe it's a supply chain issue. Maybe we can't
Wow.
get the materials. The lead time on the materials are so long that we can't meet those delivery dates, as an example. So maybe we got to figure out our supply chain. So by working together and saying, okay, what are these issues? Then we can do that. And if we have a good, solid, comprehensive dashboard that has a lot of this covered, then as a team, we can look at these and say, okay, let's take this one at a time. Where are we going wrong? How do we fix this? How do we deal with that? Hey, this is trending lower. What do we do here? And so it allows you to focus on the issues. And that's what I think that the main thing that we see is there's not enough time being able to focus on what's important and what's in front of us right now, and too much time waiting for the information to become available, trying to process the information, and maybe even trying to get the information. So that I think is the goal, is to say, how do we move from that to really just getting the data in a way that's automated into our fingertips here, so that way we can start making decisions.
Yeah. Well, and one thing you mentioned earlier was, okay, I gotta have a comprehensive dashboard for instance. When you say that, one thing I think of is it's gotta be functional. I gotta be able to use this. Okay. Especially if I'm that owner, I'm not the CFO, I'm not the, more financial minded person. I'm operational. Again, we talk all the time. Those two are connected. We've got to have now a dashboard or a report that is then functional and can be used across those departments, across those different people. So, Mike, in your opinion, what's going to help make that dashboard more functional, more simple to use, as opposed to just a data dump of, like, on a report or something, of numbers and figures?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, and then we'll get into demonstrating what this looks like. But first, it's got to be the data has got to be something that's meaningful to our business. And
Mhm.
so there are certain standard things that are meaningful to every business, and then you get into the nuances of your own particular business. So that's one thing. And I think the second thing is the timeliness of that information. In other words, it's got to be frequently updating in a way that gives you that information. So sometimes some things that may be meaningful for daily, some is weekly, and maybe some is monthly, depending on what that data point is. And so we want to look at a combination of useful, usable information and timeliness. But then we're adding in a third component to this, and that is something that built into it that highlights, hey, you might have a problem here. There might be something you need to look at here, right? Throwing in a little bit of, so you at a glance, yellow, green, red. Is there a problem? Hey, caution here, or no, this is kind of on the target that we've designed for this.
Right.
And that kind of goes back to what's that plan. So if our margins are supposed to be 40%, we are at 40%. Okay, we don't need to spend much time on that. But if we see our cash is running low, or our margins are starting to slip, or sales are starting to slip, now we've got to look at that.
Right.
So why don't Kevin? I think now's a good time to jump into this and give a little bit of an overview of a meaningful dashboard. Now I'll start with saying this is dummy data. Uh, you'll notice that a lot of it has a lot of problems because it wouldn't be a very fun demonstration if we just showed y'all green. So I want to be able to spend some time there. And so, I think you'll see here that we've got an executive summary level, and then we drill down into profitability, customer and channels, working capital, inventory, production. So it has a nice flow to it. And these are all really important factors. And so in our executive summary here, if I'm a CEO, I'm able to look at, and you can see we have different periods here, so we can change it to time frames. But you've got revenue, our margins, our cash level. This is our negative cash telling me I've got a problem. Our accounts receivable, and you can see here 100% past due. Not great. Not great at all for cash flows. We've got payables of 1.4 million. We got receivables of only 400,000, and somehow another negative cash. So our working capital situation is in trouble. Talk about on-time shipments, some inventory levels, and here we get into just some insights and exceptions, some things at a glance for you to be for as a CEO, management team to look at and say, hey, here's some things we need to focus on right now. Our margins are low, revenue, is increased. That's good. Our AR is well overdue. So you can see we just have a very basic starting point to give you a glance. And I would look at this every single day and want to have this updated every single day. As we drill into our profitability levels, one of the nice things is too, we can filter this by product families or regions. We've got a lot of different options here. And we can see, like we said, this gets even deeper into margins, profit dollars, which product is our best, which one is our worst. So, that might be something to look at there. Gross margin trends. We can get into variance, cost driver breakdowns. What is our cost drivers here? Top margin improvers. So this is giving us trends over time on things that are up or down. And my personal favorite is the product profitability, getting into our COGS margin percentages, what's strong, what's weak, things that we want to monitor. So, it gives us a good detail of that and what do we need to be looking at as this goes, as things get updated. We can get into customers and channels. We can look at revenue and margins. We've got various graphs. Again, this is giving you a glance. And then again, another of my favorite, customer profitability. Which ones are good? Which ones are not good? We might have to look at one and say, why is this one struggling a little bit here at the Metro Fresh Markets? Why is that struggling for us? What's going on there?
And I think Mike, to that point, Mike, what you just said there, be very inquisitive when you're looking at this data. I mean, again, you probably go back to earlier, you probably have some base expectation of, in this example, how each of these should be performing, right? Whether it's a product, whether it's a vendor, how each of those should be performing. And when it's not up to that expectation, simply why, right? Now, careful, you can go down a rabbit hole and be there all day digging through, multitudes of data. But at the same time, I think being naturally inquisitive, oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, we're doing a little better than I thought. Well, why are we doing there? You'll start gaining, simply asking those questions, drilling down a little bit. You'll start gaining those insights, or at least pointing you in the right direction to gain those insights about what's going right, what's going wrong, that then causes, okay, well, what are we going to do about it now? And so I think just naturally being inquisitive, especially if you're not looking at this kind of data regularly, looking at it regularly and naturally being inquisitive as to, well, why did that change this way or that way, are going to you'll gain a lot of insight, both into your own profitability as well as areas to focus on.
Right. Right. And, again, we got working capital here that we talked about. What does that look like? Here's our top overdue accounts. So it gives you a glance and says, hey, these are all overdue. We gotta deal with these. What's going on? And I actually, one of the things when we get involved in our CFO, our fractional CFO work, one of the things that we often find is a lack of a process around working capital. Working capital in and of itself is a process, has to be managed no less than weekly, sometimes daily when you get into really high pressure situations or high cash crunch situations. And so having the ability to look at this and say, okay, where are we at a glance can help me understand where I need to focus my time. Inventory levels, days in inventory, obviously 521 days is awful. So our slow moving items, things at risk for expiration, at risk lots, because it's old. So keep in mind that you can see that some of this is very customized. And so that's one of the things that we're able to do is take this and take the data and adjust it and customize it to what's important to you. So for some companies, they may not have a lot that is going to expire. In other words, it can have a shelf life of forever, but it may be aging because it hasn't moved in so long that now it might be just becoming obsolete, as opposed to, hey, I literally have to throw this away. I don't think we should be keeping whole milk, for example, for too long. We probably get rid of that after a while, right? So that's how this is helping us. And then we want to say, well, why didn't we order so much of it? Well, we got a 1% discount if we got it, or a 10% discount. Okay, great. We just threw out more than 10% because we bought so much. That was a waste of our dollars. And then, we've got a thing here on production and fulfillment, schedule attainment, output, so we're measuring our output, on time shipments, our plans around shipment status, delay reasons. Love this. Why is it? Well, we got a quality goal. Well, that's not good. Why do we have so much quality issues? Packaging supply issue. What's going on there? So this gives us something to look at and understand, what's causing it. And when you look at production around this level, you can see why we have a problem with our working capital. We're struggling to get stuff out the door. 78% on time shipment, and then we're not collecting our receivables. So we're not able to pay our payables. Our margins are low. All of this tells a story. So when I look at this, I can see the story. The story tells me that operationally, we are not functioning well, and we've got to fix this stuff. And that's the goal of the dashboard is, hey, I don't need to wait until month end to find out some of this information. What I need to do is look at this daily, weekly, every other week, whatever the cadence might be, and make sure we're hitting those targets, and then focus the team not on data collection, but on solving problems.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think too, some ancillary benefits to seeing a lot of this too is help you understand. I mean, yes, you probably know your process, but help you really understand it, how some of these small changes could compound for the better or for the worse if they're not dealt with, or for the better if they are, really quickly, right? And help you be even more in tune with those life cycles, whether it's, how do we convert everything into cash, right? Or how to, going through the whole, how inventory makes it through and ultimately back its way into cash, right? Things like that help you understand or gain that insight even better when you're looking at these types of dashboards or this type of information on a more regular basis, right? So again, kind of just want to hit home that the functionality is super, super important because again, what's it doing? It's tying in all that financial data, everything you'll see on any financial report, and tying it into what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, our operations, to say, are we performing at an acceptable level or not? And if we're not, now let's figure out why not, right? So, um, again, I think another thing to bring up is, again, these things can get, I mean, look at this example here. We got multiple different layers, and in each layer, we have a lot of different metrics and so forth that in this mock, dashboard is important for this client. Um, but keep in mind, if you're not using anything at all, you don't have to jump straight to a fully fledged, blown out dashboard like this to begin with. Start with, get with your management team, get with your key members, talk about what's important. What do they need visibility in to do their job better? What do you need visibility in to do your job better, to make good decisions? And where is that data? And then let's just start getting some of those into maybe even very basic type of dashboard that you're looking at regularly. Now you're looking at something more time, even if it's only a few metrics. That's better than what you were doing, only looking at that monthly or quarterly, right? So it's just like with technology we've said on this podcast before. You don't have to go gung ho. There's a lot of things you could do and jump in the deep end. And now you've got, every IT solution 6 ways to Sunday. You don't have to. Sometimes it just starts with some basic data, some of those key drivers that we're looking at and monitoring regularly instead of monthly or quarterly. And then now we can make more timely decisions. Start there and then build from there. You'll find that, oh man, we don't have good visibility into this key area. Okay, what do we need for that? Let's put that on the dashboard now. And next thing you know, over time, you've now built out a full-fledged dashboard, something similar to this, that's important to different people across different departments.
Yeah, just add on the point of figure out a way to automate the completion of it, or as much as possible. Because again,
Yes.
unless you're, if you're going to have your entire team extracting data, summarizing it, filling out KPIs, you're going to use a lot of time. And with technology the way it is now, it's complicated, or it can be complicated, but it doesn't need to be. And there are ways to automate that piece of it and get that into some sort of centralized data position that can then update these KPIs. And then I think from there, you've got to build a cadence of reviewing this. And I think you should, I'm a big fan of financial literacy and transparency for management teams. And we do a lot of education. We have some specialized courses we do to educate management teams on understanding finance a little bit deeper and what the impact of operations has on finance. And so, but I do suggest reviewing this. Now, I realize that some owners prefer not to share all the information. That's fine. You don't have to share all the information, but I think there are certain KPIs, certain statistical pieces that you can go through. And I think having a cadence of reviewing that with the team, a cross-functional team that allows you to solve issues together, can be meaningfully moving for a company to make great progress in solving problems and helping the company grow.
Yeah. And I love that, Mike, with the cadence and consistency, right? I think about it like working out, right? If you don't work out and then all of a sudden you want to start running or working out, you don't go straight into the running the 10K and doing so many miles a day. What do? Just regularly, let's, take a quarter-mile walk every day. Okay, now let's bump that up to half a mile. Okay, that's not, now we need more and better results. Let's bump that up to a mile, 2 miles. And next thing you know, you are running that or doing that on a regular basis. The same thing here. It's creating those habits of that cadency, that consistency, and then layer on the complexity later as needed. But without that consistency, then it's just going to be, it's just might as well, it's just It's just data for data's sake, right? As opposed to a meaningful tool that actually will help you, right? So, Mike, really quick, the I guess one pitfall that people can fall into, oh my gosh, I have the best of intention. I'm going to start doing this and I'm going to try to automate as much, Kev, do all these things we're talking about. Where do you find that I guess one pitfall is, okay, we get out of the habit of looking at that regularly. Are there any other, mistakes like that or pitfalls like that that you see that manufacturers will, hey, I'm going to start building these dashboards, look at this data more timely, and then it kind of starts out with good intentions, but doesn't stick?
Yeah, I think you have to build in accountability and a discipline. And I think that you assign responsibility for these KPIs to the various team members and then hold them accountable. And when I talk about having a meeting, I am not a meeting fan by and large. However, I am a meeting fan if there's actionable result. If somebody owns it, there's a purpose to it, and then there's actionable results that come out of that. And then there's an accountability process built to say, I'm going to hold you as the owner of this responsible. Now, it doesn't mean that if it fails, it's all your fault, but it will, you need to help drive it with the team. It's a team problem to solve it, but you're going to drive it. And so I think you need to make sure that's built into it. I also think going too far with too many metrics. Yeah, I mean, you could literally have hundreds of metrics. Don't go that far. Come up with the key few metrics in each area that makes sense. That's why we built this, because these are the key things. It gives you the data. But make sure not to go overboard on that. The goal here is better visibility, clearer accountability, and faster ability to make decisions on what needs to improve for the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks as always for all of our listeners. Also, if you're listening on a podcast, this is on our YouTube channel where you can actually see the full demo of our manufacturing dashboard. Like I said, it's all about not needing more data, but how you're using the data to give you that visibility and decision-making ability. So as always, feel free to, if you have a question, drop a comment in the comments area or reach out to Kevin or I to talk about data and data visibility, the questions and how it can help your company. Once again, appreciate your time listening today and hope you have a great day.
To learn more about James Moore & Company's manufacturing services, go to jmco.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our More on Manufacturing series to receive updates when new videos and podcasts are released. If you'd like to be a guest, or if there's a topic you'd like to see covered on a future episode, contact us on our website. You can also follow us on social media for more news as the landscape on manufacturing continues to rapidly evolve.